In an extraordinary moment that immediately sent shockwaves across social media platforms and news cycles worldwide, Candace Owens' appearance on The View turned from a routine panel discussion into one of the most blistering and contentious confrontations ever aired on daytime television, as she forcefully clashed with the co-hosts and, most notably, with Meghan Markle herself, who had been invited for a special guest segment to discuss public image, the responsibilities of fame, and the challenges of maintaining privacy in an age of relentless media scrutiny. A setup that rapidly devolved into an emotionally charged, verbally sharp exchange when Owens seized the opportunity to publicly dismantle what she described as the performance of victimhood Meghan has weaponized to maintain relevance and accumulate sympathy points while profiting from narratives that she herself has built upon questionable premises, triggering a tense, unscripted back that left the studio stunned, the audience caught between gasps and murmurs, and the production team scrambling behind the scenes to maintain order as the two women, both charismatic, media-savvy, and unapologetically opinionated, engaged in an impromptu battle of ideologies, values, and public accountability that would soon dominate headlines, Twitter feeds, podcasts, and viral video streams around the globe. It all began innocuously enough, with Whoopi Goldberg offering warm introductions and the usual pre-interview banter, as Meghan, dressed in understated elegance, smiled graciously and answered early questions about her children, her current charitable endeavors, and her recent appearances advocating for mental health awareness and digital responsibility. But the tone shifted abruptly when Candace Owens, seated just one chair over, leaned in and asked pointedly, "At what point does personal storytelling cross over into manipulation?" Referencing the highly publicized documentaries, the memoir Spare co-authored with Prince Harry, and the numerous podcast interviews that, according to Owens, painted Meghan as a perpetual victim in a palace of privilege, igniting immediate tension as Meghan, clearly caught off guard, responded with a measured but firm tone, defending her need to tell her story in her own words after years of being silenced, which Owens immediately challenged by saying, "But weren't you given the biggest microphone in the world? A royal wedding viewed by billions. Access to platforms most women could only dream of. And yet you chose to spend that platform, recounting your pain while refusing to name names or provide context to serious accusations. How is that transparency?" A direct confrontation that momentarily silenced even veteran co-hosts like Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin, whose stunned expressions mirrored the tension in the studio as Owens continued, unflinching, laying out a timeline of events, inconsistencies, and public statements made by Meghan over the years that she claimed contradicted earlier interviews or omitted critical facts, including allegations of racism within the royal family that, Owens said, were hinted at, never substantiated, and then used to ignite a firestorm that damaged real people without ever clarifying the actual truth. A statement that prompted Meghan to interject emotionally, stating, "Speaking your truth is not an attack, it's reclaiming your narrative after years of being shaped by tabloids and institutions." But Owens was quick to reply, "That's not truth. That's branding, strategic, emotionally curated storytelling, designed to boost image, monetize sympathy, and silence criticism by wrapping yourself in a shield of racial and feminist language." And at that point, the live studio audience broke into a mix of gasps, applause, and uncomfortable silence as the two women locked eyes in an intense exchange of not just words, but worldviews, as Meghan accused Owens of minimizing trauma for clout, while Owens countered that Meghan had commercialized her own, warning that the danger of presenting oneself as the universal symbol of victimhood without accountability or openness to contradiction was that it cheapened real suffering and alienated potential allies. Things only escalated from there as co-hosts tried to mediate, Whoopi reminding everyone of the show's intention to provide space for differing perspectives, Sunny pointing out the disproportionate media harassment Meghan had endured compared to other royals, and Sarah N. attempting to pivot the discussion to Meghan's recent philanthropic work in developing countries. But Owens, undeterred, pulled the conversation back to the core of her argument, stating, "This isn't about the press. This is about a pattern of using the press first, embracing it, then disowning it when the headlines weren't flattering, and now monetizing the backlash to rebuild a controlled version of events where every critic is branded as racist or sexist or abusive without ever addressing legitimate counter," which once again placed Meghan on the defensive as she spoke candidly about the emotional toll of years spent under the spotlight, the isolation of being in an institution unwilling to support her mental health struggles, and the strength it took to step away and rebuild her voice, only for Owens to fire back that strength also includes standing in the fire of tough questions, not curating your media image to ensure only affirming voices make it into the public conversation. A remark that elicited another wave of mixed reactions from the studio crowd, some of whom nodded in agreement while others shook their heads in disapproval. Eventually, the verbal battle reached a crescendo when Meghan, clearly frustrated, asked, "Owens, why do you think my story bothers you so much?" To which Owens replied with chilling calm, "Because stories like yours, when not told with honesty and responsibility, hurt the people they claim to represent because they reinforce stereotypes, distract from actual systemic issues, and turn private pain into performative spectacle, a final blow that seemed to hang in the air as the producers cut abruptly to commercial, reportedly earlier than planned. And though the show returned with a lighthearted cooking segment, the atmosphere had palpably shifted, with even the panel appearing rattled by the sheer intensity of what had unfolded minutes earlier on live television. In the hours and days that followed, social media exploded with takes from every corner of the cultural spectrum, some heralding Owens as a fearless truth-teller who spoke uncomfortable truths to power, others condemning her as callous, opportunistic, and unsympathetic to the unique pressures faced by women like Meghan in historically white, elite institutions like the British monarchy. While many others expressed exhaustion at the polarizing spectacle, lamenting that yet another opportunity for meaningful dialogue had descended into ideological warfare. Yet, regardless of perspective, everyone seemed to agree that what had taken place on The View that day would not soon be forgotten, with clips of the exchange garnering millions of views, prompting OPDs, video essays, and even late-night monologues dissecting every word, every gesture, and every expression, turning what was supposed to be a 30-minute segment into a viral moment of cultural reckoning that forced the public to examine not just the personas of Meghan Markle and Candace Owens, but the larger questions surrounding victimhood, accountability, public narrative, and the role media plays in both, empowering and distorting the lived experiences of public figures. And while Meghan declined to respond further publicly, sources close to her said she found the experience jarring, emotionally triggering, and disappointing. While Owens posted a follow-up video defending her stance, stating plainly, "There's no such thing as immunity from tough questions. Just because your story makes people uncomfortable, truth is uncomfortable, and it doesn't care how royal your title is." A remark that drew more admiration from her fans and even sharper criticism from her detractors, but ensured that the name Candace Owens would remain at the center of national conversation for weeks to come, and that her televised showdown with Meghan Markle would be studied, dissected, and debated for years as one of the most explosive, polarizing, and unforgettable moments in talk show history.